the Motorcyclist and the Raven. Jacob Rivers, a seasoned motorcyclist from the southern states, was known for his love of nighttime rides. His trusty Harley was always ready for the road, and the night seemed like the perfect time for journeys. Fewer cars, a cool breeze, and the moon lighting up the road added a touch of magic to his adventures. One night, as Jacob sped along a deserted road, his attention was caught by a figure on the roadside. A raven, large and menacingly black, perched on a road sign, seemingly watching him. The raven looked straight into Jacob's eyes, and he felt an inexplicable chill piercing him to the bone. After riding a few more miles, Jacob decided to stop at an old, abandoned gas station. He needed a break and wanted to check his map. The place was eerily quiet, and the air felt thick and still. Suddenly, he heard a call. The same raven sat on the roof of the gas station, staring at him with its shiny eyes. "Are you following me?" Jacob muttered, trying to make a joke, but his voice trembled. He felt cold sweat trickling down his spine. Jacob decided to ignore the raven and got back on the road, but the feeling of unease grew stronger. The road seemed endless, and time felt like it had stopped. He looked at his watch. The hands were not moving. Panic started to creep into his mind. Suddenly, a thick fog appeared in front of him. Jacob slowed down, trying to figure out where to go. The fog enveloped his motorcycle, and he could barely see the road ahead. Out of nowhere, the raven appeared again, sitting on the road. Its caw echoed through the surroundings. "Damn it, what do you want?" Jacob shouted, stopping his motorcycle. The raven spread its wings and took off, circling above his head. Then the bird flew towards an old, dilapidated mining town visible in the distance. Not knowing what to do and feeling like madness was starting to take hold of him, Jacob followed the raven. The town looked abandoned, its buildings stood empty, and the mines were caved in. Jacob got off his motorcycle and, with trembling hands, approached one of the old houses. The raven sat on the roof, watching him with an indescribable expectation. Summoning all his courage, Jacob entered. Inside, it was dark and cold, as if the air itself was soaked with fear. The floorboards creaked under his steps, and every movement echoed in the emptiness of the house. Suddenly, he heard the ticking of a clock coming from deep within the building. "Who's there?" Jacob shouted, but only his echo responded. He walked further, heading towards the sound. The ticking grew louder, and Jacob couldn't understand what it was. Trying to figure out the source, he entered a large room in the center of the house. Entering the room, he saw what was making the noise. Old, massive, surrounded by candles, a clock stood in the center of the room. Jacob was surprised that the clock wasn't running. The pendulum was still, but not hanging straight down. It was in a suspended state. He felt a chill creeping into his soul. Jacob realized he needed to run, but something stopped him. An invisible force turned him towards the clock, and he slowly started walking towards it against his will. Approaching it, he pushed the pendulum. Suddenly, everything around him began to be sucked into the clock, as if it were a portal. Jacob felt his body being pulled in. He tried to scream, but the sound stuck in his throat. The raven sat on the windowsill, watching the events unfold. Its call was the last sound Jacob heard before his world plunged into darkness. By dawn, nothing remained of the old town, only a desolate wasteland. And only a few travelers passing by at night began to notice the figure of a biker with a giant raven. They said the vision served as a warning to all who dared approach that place. And every time someone decided to do so, their fate was sealed. Their clock stopped, and they heard the raven's call.